How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the Q&A. Today we're joined with Mod Matt K.
Hello.
Mod Ronan.
Hello.
Mod Ash.
Hello.
Mod Ghost.
Hello.
And myself, Mod Archie. All right, let's hop into it. First question's from Nipchew, and he asks, can we have the ability to erase typed text by pressing escape?
Had a few requests for what you can do with the escape key. At the moment, you press escape, it switches you to inventory panel. We've had a few requests to make it, shut the menu that's currently open instead of switching side panels, which makes sense to me because, well, why would it do that? If people would like it to do this instead or as well, then it looks like we're going to have to come up with some kind of menu where you can choose what the things do. Now, I'd already talked about a menu for changing which F key points in which panel, so you can choose between what it does in old school, maybe make it like the pre-EOC ones, maybe come up with some configuration that suits your hand shape or whatever you've got. We could have this as an extra option for what the escape key does instead. Okay. Although, I think more people would likely to want the escape key to shut the menu that's open rather than doing that.
I've gotten a lot of requests also for closing the bank with the escape key, as well as spacebar, clicking the hit to play button for you instead of having to click it.
Yeah, I should be able to make that happen. Yeah, might do that.
Okay.
But there's a lot of things people seem to want the escape key to do, and it probably shouldn't do all of them.
I suppose if
Control plus backspace could delete all the text they've got instead. A bit more like Windows.
Yeah, I suppose if we can sort of have a whole list of buttons that they can press on the keyboard and a whole list of commands, they can just mix and match what they want to do what, and they can just set up any way they like.
Indeed, like the inventory panel, the other panels, shutting menus. We could offer all those things and let them bind F9 to it if they're really that way inclined.
Yes, exactly. You never know.
There you go. Next question. This one's from Dude Fishy, and he asks, can we have a quest that unlocks the ability to run your own farm with livestock, ranging from chickens to unicorns, etc.?
We did talk about livestock once, didn't we?
Yeah.
We did.
When did we talk about that? Did we offer that as potentially one of the ideas for a new skill?
It was one of the things talked about was animal rearing, I think.
Yes, animal husbandry, that was it. Yeah.
Husbandry?
Husbandry, yeah, so it's the proper word for raising, looking after animals.
Of course.
That's, yeah.
That's what the pigs were originally intended for, as an expansion to farming. It was just a teaser that one day these pigs would have a use in RuneScape. We didn't do it, and I think RS3 went in a very different direction with their pigs.
Yes.
We do have quite a few like farmland type areas with the fields of wheat and whatnot that I don't think actually get used.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it would tie in a lot of content if you had lots of different animals that you had to raise and what have you, but I think we still would need to do a huge amount of stuff to make it happen as well. Because although it will tie in, for, as you said, the wheat fields, and it will make a use for the pigs, we probably need to start making different sized pigs, different sized cows, and figure out what else you can do with cows apart from kill them for their hides, and all sorts of, milk them and whatever. And then we have to do it with sort of every other animal that you could possibly want to raise as well. And I think they need a lot more uses than just getting the odd egg from a chicken or cowhide from a cow.
Did that question start off with, can we have a quest?
It was a quest, but I don't think you really need a quest for something like this.
I'd rather have a quest instead of something like this.
Yeah,
That's true, yeah.
Right, fair enough.
Sorry.
Do you think that it add a certain element of cruelty? Raise your own pigs as a baby pig and then kill them and eat them?
It's life, Chris.
I know, it's life. This is RuneScape, Gareth.
There's a meme for after we finished.
Maybe you get them as like pets and then
have an abattoir.
This is just getting to be mean.
Well, I told you. I've told you guys my cow story, haven't I? So
us your
escaped
cow
from the
story.
abattoir. I'll tell you guys as well. When I was 10, 12 years old, this cow escaped from the local abattoir, ran down the road, saw a reflection of itself in the living room window, jumped through it, trashed someone's living room, jumped out again. And on their own, there was this 15-year-old boy in the house, and his parents must have come home and gone, "What on earth's gone on here?" It's like, cow jumped through my living room, trashed the living room, jumped out the window, Mum. It's like, yeah, of course he did. But yeah, there you go. That's my story about a cow escaping from an abattoir.
That was good. I was expecting like a 10-minute.
Yeah, it could go on actually, because it got shot in the
really
garden next door to where I lived. But that's not a part of the interesting story.
Type 1 if you want a storyline. If you want story time with Mod Matt K.
My real life experiences with stuff.
Alrighty then.
Apparently they'll just want EOC.
Half expecting that to be somewhat of a joke question, to be honest, but it seems that livestock might eventually one day have a place with farming in Old School.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like it. I think it would be a nice thing to do, but I don't think it's anything more than a nice thing to do.
Well, they're hitting one.
Dear. Yeah, they're hitting one.
Alright.
I have a story for everything, including elephant impressions.
Let's move on to the next question. This one's from Cavalry. And he asks, can we get mighty Banshees, please? He's insisting normal Banshees are just too boring.
Well, he's not wrong there.
Yeah, absolutely.
For the next big Slayer batch, we've said we'd like to offer higher level versions of existing monsters. Wouldn't necessarily copy the Smoke and Kills quest and all its works and all its dungeons and all its map areas and graphics, but we would like to have bigger Banshees, bigger Bloodvelds maybe, the kind of things that RS3 got after 2007 we could have. Doesn't necessarily mean they have to have their creatures graphics redesigned like RS3 did at that time, because while I'm sure you could draw a better Banshee,
I don't think people want different ones, do they? Yeah.
But they would like to fight something a bit more worthy of their time and get some rewards more worthy of their effort.
There's a lot of yeses in the chat right now for mighty Banshees.
Excellent.
I think it's worth mentioning as well, for this big Slayer update, need your ideas, so send them our way, post them on the feedback and poll suggestions forum, and also you can post them on Reddit if you use the submit a suggestion button. So send everything that you have our way.
Possibly if it's a bit more fleshed out than a bigger Banshee.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Next question. This one's from Jay Bizzle, and he asks, would it be possible to make a ring combined with all the trademark rings in the game, such as a warrior / zerker / seer / archer, being able to take them all and combine them into one?
One ring to rule them all.
Oh dear, yeah.
Walk into that one. Thoughts on that?
Could do.
Would it be OP? It would be OP.
It would be
Yes. But it's a very expensive OP ring. And then could you imbue it as...
Well, having got it, we'd presumably want to have some way of getting it out of the game again, perhaps.
Okay, so degradable maybe?
That would counter it being so massively OP if it was taking itself and all the other rings out of the game. But I still think it's kind of not a good ring.
I think yes, if it drains the player of all their life and turns them into golems slowly, then that would be good.
Maybe it slowly turns normal players into ultimate Ironmen the more they use it.
The thing is, I like that you choose the ring for what you're going to go fighting or what kind of army you're going to take with you, and you don't just have that same thing that I take everywhere.
Fair point. Fair point.
The chat doesn't seem to like it.
No, absolutely.
All right.
Is there any rings as well? Are there any rings that have negative effects on them?
No idea.
I
Ring of Stone?
I can't think of any.
Being
That's
useless.
no idea.
Yeah. Negative person, yeah. No. So all I was thinking was if there's one with a positive and there's one with a negative, would they cancel each other out when you combine them, or what would happen? But is there any with a negative? Not really an issue.
Can think of.
As long as no one goes and asks us to let you equip 8 rings at a time and 2 bigger rings at a time and some toe rings maybe.
Well, we have more than one finger, so I can ignore more than one ring.
But only one ring slot.
That's exactly it.
Hang on, were we playing around with the idea of having a second ring slot?
We were. We just didn't do it.
Yeah. I thought we much like spoke about it at some
We
point.
certainly could have done.
Now we're just giving them ideas.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, next question from Jay Bizzle, and he asks, any chance of a void deflector without the release of Conquest?
Well, we could do it without release of anything. I mean, we can create any item we want and put it in game in any way that we like. Whether you want a void defender, I suppose what it boils down to.
Well, I know I don't want to try and program Conquest.
Yes.
Void deflector, let's just judge from the chat real quick. After the mod Ash pets go away?
Yeah, maybe.
I have a lot of respect for Mod Wraith writing Conquest. I think it was him, but darn, I do not want to try and redo that.
Yes. How would you like a mod Ash pet? As that seems to be the question at the moment in the chat.
I think it should be answered by anyone except me.
Yeah.
Can we
Chris?
straw pull that?
Yeah, mod Ash pet?
Straw pull?
You don't want to answer it.
We've already got the cup, haven't we?
No, we never launched the cup.
We have the asset though.
Yes, so
So
we
we
kept
can-
the animation.
We can give you that as your weapon of choice.
In fact, did
Oh,
we
geez.
not mention if we hit over £50,000 raised for...
We didn't promise anything in the last Game Blast
Yeah.
Well of Goodwill.
We may have mentioned something on the stream as a possibility. Do you reckon that's enough to go
I
on?
think that would be as good a way as any of using the idea.
Yeah.
Next time we do a charity event, say if the players are generous enough, maybe once they can put bonds into it, then we give them a mini-me.
Yeah.
How will that make you feel? A little avatar of you following around thousands of players at the same time. But if it's just me, it makes me feel a bit weird if it were me.
I think that we maybe crossed the line with doing silly things to this game that we all know and love.
I wonder what the vote will come
I'm
back.
afraid to see the results from this poll, so let's just go to the next question
Yeah.
real quick. This one's from Mini Fanbar, and he asks, perhaps with the new Slayer update, will we get to see special challenges? An example being killing Calphite Queen or Jad, etc.
Dan has been wanting to program those ever since we got a Slayer update in the first place, so I think it's pretty much guaranteed we'll end up offering things like that.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And even if we don't, we'll
Here we
probably
go.
go and do it.
91%.
Results just came back from the straw poll for a mod Ash pet, passing at 91%.
2,500 votes.
That's almost as much as bank space.
Yeah,
Right.
but not as much as the Easter event, which suits me.
So for those of you that don't know, the straw polls that are just entered in the chat when we say we're gonna straw poll something, you will find a link in the chat. You don't have to sign in or anything like that. You can just click on the link and vote. Hence why we get so many votes lately. So thanks everybody that's taken part of those. Aside from that, move on to the next one from Zongetsu, nice name. And he asks, can you revamp Castle Wars reward system, such as lowering the cost of rewards in the shop, or at least giving the losing team 1 ticket instead of none? I kind of like the latter idea.
I had Peace 2007 asking me about that last idea earlier today. It's very easy to do. Heck, it's just remove the code that says don't do it if they're on the losing team.
Did we not poll that ages and ages ago about having different rewards for Castle Wars? Because we did the new outfits for it, didn't we?
I'm afraid I can't remember what we
Yeah.
offered back then. I mean, if we offered it before and it didn't pass, then fair play. Although we could, maybe if it's changed their views, we could revisit it.
Yeah, I've got a vague memory that we did at that time. I mean, maybe somebody can look it up, but I've got a vague memory that we did look at giving the losers something as well, so they could obviously build tickets up. And obviously, if it's not happened, it hasn't passed. But we might have just talked about it and decided not to poll it. I can't remember.
Not good eye.
That was what, 18 months ago?
Yeah.
I feel like it would be a fair compromise, seeing as how you still get twice as many tickets, being 2 if you win, and at least 1 for losing. You know, you sat through the whole game hopefully and put in your best, but just didn't win. You get something out of it.
If it went 3-2-1, then 3 for winning, 2 for a draw, 1 for losing, then everyone gets a little something, but it's substantially better to win than to lose.
Does it?
On the other hand, that means if you're winning a lot, then you get the rewards a lot faster than you previously could have.
Does it generate AFKing in Castle Wars though? Because I'm going to get something whatever, so I'm just going to sit here and not try because I can just go off and make a cup of tea or
In all
play on my
likelihood,
other
yes.
character, which is probably the downside of it.
That's true, but I mean, yeah,
Bigger discussion, I think, certainly that.
yeah. More in-depth question than
Yeah.
you would have thought.
Absolutely.
All right, next question. This one's from Night Hunter Zero, and he asks, will you ever reconsider repolling Rigor and Augury? Our favorite question.
Almost certainly yes, because last time we polled them, we said it would be from a minigame reward shop, and that's quite reasonably not the place everyone wants to see them.
Yeah.
There's also some debate about whether the defence requirements should be added to make them less pure friendly. We said we'd consider it if we ever came back to polling them. We don't actually have to, but I would like to poll them again somewhere that isn't a minigame reward shop.
There seem to be quite a few requests, I would say, for higher prayer level content, higher level prayer content, I should say, also to help rebalance the combat triangle. A lot of people think that melee is very dominant, which it is if you look at like Edgeville, for example.
Looking at other places we could put them, like there's always the bounty shop.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a proper combat-y place, and it's a proper shop too.
I mean, look at the chat though. I think it's sort of very split on whether they would like it or not. There's a lot of yes, a lot of no's.
Does that say straw poll to you?
I think it says straw poll.
They seem to be associating it with also being turmoil and soul split and whatnot, but you know, this is just Rigor and Augury here.
Yeah.
So we're going to go ahead and straw poll that in a minute here. You'll have a link to click on to vote if you would like to see Rigor and Augury in the game. Obviously, this isn't an official poll.
Are those
So if
guys
James
who
wakes
actually
up, of
listening?
course. Hello, James.
Hello.
Yes, please.
But for the time being, let's go to the next question.
Yeah.
All right, this one's from Night Hunter Zero, and he asks, could Scorpio get a kill counter?
I think she got left off because she's always been classed as a demi-boss rather than a boss, but heck, we can redefine her.
It's a she.
I thought so.
Learn
I
something new every
haven't
day.
looked.
She's got offspring.
I
Mind you,
guess-
so is Zilver, and we don't, and the jury's well out on what that is.
Yeah.
Okay, so it is possible.
Oh yeah. It wouldn't count from when we launched her, of course. or him apparently, but
It.
Scorpio.
Yeah.
But we could count it like we count lots of other things.
Seeing Scorpio is a real grill confirmed. Apparently. There you go.
I'd call it Scorpius otherwise.
All right. Next question, again from Night Hunter, and he asks, will you ever be pulling the dragon plate body? And he's suggesting as a possible upgrade from the dragon chain to make it more useful.
We have pulled it, in fact, in the past.
We pulled it as a Slayer update, didn't we? I think.
Oh,
that
hang
was
on,
not
no,
the
I don't
place
think.
for it.
Actually, we spoke about it in the dev blog, but we never pulled it because everyone's like, hell no, we don't want it as a Slayer update. We want it from something a bit more substantial.
That
I think
seems reasonable.
that's what happened. I think so. I don't think we actually ever did poll it. But the feeling we certainly got from you guys was that if we're going to put it out there, it's got to be from a decent sized piece of content rather than just a Slayer reward from a boss.
Where was it going to come from Thermi?
I think so.
yeah.
We'd already got the cave krakens in by that point.
Yeah. So maybe new continent somewhere.
Do you get a
Something nice
lot
in
of
there.
people asking about just finishing off Dragon in general, Warhammer short sword, all that?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, Dragon's a very lore heavy piece of equipment, so I think that the importance behind it is it comes from something that makes sense, and it all sort of ties into how it all works, and that's sort of a difficult thing to do, I think.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
But I think that's the thing about Dragon, I think.
All right, we've got the results back from polling Rigor and Augury, and it's looking like about 66%, so not quite passing a poll, if this was a legit poll, but interesting.
Yeah, I think that's about the results it got last time we offered. So,
I think so.
and that was on a minigame reward shop, which was never going to be a popular place to put prayers.
We've still not got anything in that minigame reward shop yet, have we?
I can make you the interface very quickly then.
Yeah.
It's quite strange that roughly about a third of the votes said no and 2/3 said yes. I wonder why that might be. It's kind of, I thought it was an obvious answer.
No.
All the melee people are no and magic and ranged are yes.
Maybe.
Oh,
Yeah.
Maybe.
Wow.
I think
That's
our comments-
assuming-
I think you're looking a lot more in depth than
Yeah.
we are.
I thought that's just how it worked.
I think if the population was that well balanced around the combat triangle, they wouldn't be needing these prayers.
Yeah, possibly.
All right, next question. This is an interesting one. Again,
Actually,
from
before
Night.
we do that, a lot of people shouting about declawed. There's a video on your channel.
That's right. There is a video highlight on the YouTube channel, our channel,
Yeah,
which
our channel.
which we actually, I believe it was just Mod Reach,
Yeah.
who covers the Dragon Claw topic,
At length.
and answers all of your Dragon Claw questions in that
Permanently.
video. So feel free to check it out. All right. Again from Night Hunter, last one from him, and he asks, can we have the ability to revert the look of our achievement diary rewards to the lower tiered rewards if we prefer them? For example, he prefers the Falador Shield 1 as opposed to the Elite Shield. Is that somewhat of an insult?
Falador Shield 1 as
It's
opposed
the
to the
circular
Elite Shield.
one with the star.
It's all your graphics.
as
Yeah,
opposed to
yeah,
the
I
purple
know.
kite.
I've made too many now, so it's just like, yeah, okay, I remember it. So it's like a circular one with the star in the middle. No, absolutely not. No, I'd like a tiny little round dinner plate shield like that
Yeah,
compared
that's
to this
exactly
massive
it.
sort of. No, absolutely no.
Like, from an artistic point of view, no.
But just from a visual point of view,
Maybe it's because we don't have any little round shields anywhere else.
yeah, possibly. But
Maybe that's what they like.
there's a whole new continent coming up, so like we can plug those up any like holes in the visual look up anyway when we do that. But it's kind of like it's best not to focus too much on the aesthetic sometimes. Yeah.
Says the artist.
Yeah. Well, it's a strange thing to say from an artist, but since working on Old School, I think that's definitely the case sometimes.
Maybe we could add a whole load of extra shields, a whole range of bucklers, which you have, which are, for those who don't know, sort of small shields that just fit over the palm of your hand, and have a series of those. Okay,
Void Deflector. It's quite similar.
There we go. Then they can have the little round shields.
But as far as being able to revert your elite armor into the easy armor, not looking like too much of a positive right now.
Yeah, I mean that's something I hear a lot of the time when people say fashionscape, and yeah, unfortunately that is just a general vibe from the community. They don't really want people to be able to change the look of an object just because they feel aesthetically something else looks better. It's the fact that that's the object. I know what you're wearing. I know what stats are on that object. So when I actually engage with you, it's more of an even fight.
Right.
That's an important
Right.
point. Yeah.
Makes sense. All right, next question. This one's from Crafta, and he asks, currently the Varrock's armor bonuses work great with granite, but not with sandstone. Can sandstone be included in this benefit?
I have no idea why they weren't. I haven't been closely involved in the Diaries project, apart from a little bit of help towards the end. So I'm afraid I don't honestly know what it does in one place and not the other. but I'm sure it could be made to do it in both.
Okay.
Is there a reason why it wouldn't? Can you think of one?
I can't think of one for a second, no. What's say granite but not sandstone?
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems odd.
Yeah, that does seem odd.
This is according to one person, of course, but very well might be.
Could be something worth checking. 'Cause if it's meant to do both, it doesn't.
I knew that saying sandstone was going to bring the doo-doo-doos, so
Oh dear.
It's not even
Well
the
played.
same word, is it?
well played. All right, next question. This one's from Lazy Beef, and he asks, can General Groudor drop org bones?
Easy. I did that before for RS3. Mind you, it wasn't that popular when I did it, because at the time, Groudor was the relatively easy boss to kill, and he was being killed all the time, whereas Krill and Zilyana got a lot less attention and were undervalued. So for us to release a little update to buff Groudor, it just went down very badly. But yeah, we can do it again.
It's not a massive buff, I'd say.
Indeed. It just, the community felt that we were just being silly by putting that out when we did. The thing is, in our game, since Krill drops rather more valuable stuff, and so does Zilyana, I think, we added that crossbow and that staff to them. It's less of an issue, so we could probably get away with putting that thing on Groudor without so much negativity as we got last time we did it.
Seeing a lot of yeses in the chat, so
I'm seeing a lot of duh.
Yeah, they're coming
And
in.
now
You have no idea what you've done, Ash.
Yep.
There was a lot of do-do-do-do when they were listening to the Easter soundtrack actually yesterday.
Really?
A
Okay.
ton of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, this is a cool idea. This one's from Welsh March, and he asks, can we get a clan bank, being a common bank to be shared with only clanmates?
I think we want to do clan stuff. I mean, I don't think there's anyone denying that. It's not a small job to do, but we want to do, the chat thing, the bank, the make your advertise your clan, your recruitment system, all that sort of stuff. Would be a wonderful thing to do, and I think that will fit quite nicely in. See, there they are. Fit nicely in with the whole clan update thing. I think it's something that is important. It's something we should do in the next 12, 24 months. I think so. There's a big job, and I think we will have to do it at some point.
Okay.
I think clans, they're not as popular as they once were, but I think they can be. And I think we need to help them do that. And I think we do need to give them a bit of love, really.
I agree. I could see this idea in particular being an interesting one, being that you're going to have that one clanmate that's going to sneak into the bank, take all of the stuff. They'd be like, who just took all of the rune scimitars?
Yeah, I suppose we could
Rowan.
stick logs on it. And,
Yes, maple logs.
Yeah, stick maple logs on it, and people can then look at the maple logs, and it'll be written on the side who's done what.
Yeah. Interesting way to do it. All right. Next question. This one's from Sam Trick, and he asks, would it be possible to speed up how fast pets can walk? They often can't keep up, and they just kind of teleport to you, as they always have.
In the old school engine, NPCs can go at one speed, that's walk speed. In later years, they were updated to be able to run, same as players, and crawl at half speed. But for the moment, we don't have that. I'm sure Ian could do it, although of all the things Ian could be doing with his time, that doesn't seem like to get to the top in the immediate future.
Yeah. I'd agree. All right. Next question.
Oh, and they
This-
might need run anims for all the ones we wanted to enable it for as well.
Ah, yes.
That's not the end of the world, but if you have a thing going at run speed and its legs are going at walk speed, it looks really, really stupid.
It's like it's moonwalking, basically, if you do that. Yeah, it's really strange.
Only Michael Jackson looked good when he was moonwalking.
Yes.
Cats do not. It's a good job he only had 2 legs.
All right. Next question. This
a whole
one's
load
from,
of different ideas in your head, isn't it? Michael Jackson with 4 legs.
if someone just tuned in, they're thinking, what am I watching? This one's from Spinewielder, and he asks, any news on that new QA position?
Nope, not at the moment. We're going through CVs. I went through a whole load yesterday, in fact. Me and John will sit down and go through the shortlist. We had, 60 come through to us. There was 160, which, this was 2 weeks ago, 160 that had applied, so it's probably even more than that now. But we've got 60 which have been longlisted. We've created a shortlist of 15 that John and I will go through, have a look at. And then we'll phone a few people up, have a few interviews, and see if we can choose someone.
Cool.
We have chosen someone for the summer QA intern, and we'll introduce them when they start on June 1st.
Exciting.
It's exciting seeing someone do their first stream, I think.
Yeah,
after
this is
you've done
going
so
to be
many.
It's the most
interesting.
nerve-wracking
first
thing in
stream.
the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Next question. again from Welsh March, and he asks, can we speed up the attack speed of halberds to make them more useful? He says they're supposed to be agile, fast weapons, but they're one of the slowest out there.
Yeah, I
Can be
think the
agreed.
developers who put them into RuneScape in the first place did not intend them to be agile, fast weapons, and gave them a really slow attack speed to make up for the fact they got the extra range, which might have been overdoing it a little.
Is a halberd a fast weapon? I wouldn't have
It's
thought
a slow weapon.
Yeah, I mean,
In
as in
RuneScape,
even,
yes,
even
like-
in real life, I don't think it's particularly quick.
Well, if you wanted to fight me with a very large pole, I'd run away while you were trying to turn your pole, most likely.
Yes. But I mean, the only thing I can think that somebody might think is a quick weapon is if they see the similar things in the Chinese have with the long poles with the sword on the end, which is supposed to be used quickly. That's not halberd.
Okay.
Halberd is like the big thing with the big axe on the end,
Mm.
and it was used. Sorry, I like my history. It was used in formation to bash the people on the other side on the top of their head while you had two lines of people against each other.
Cool.
That's what they were used for, to do that.
But yeah, we could certainly make the RuneScape ones really, really quick if people wanted that.
Maybe not really, really quick, but maybe just slightly faster. Interesting idea, nonetheless. All right. Next question. This one's from Baratho. This has been asked before, but why not? Can we buff items that are useless without a set, such as Torag's hammers, Carol's coif, Aram's staff, particularly just Barrow's items that have gone, missed?
Sorry, I missed some of that.
So these items on their own are quite useless, particularly the Carol's coif. We've talked about buffing that in the past. Any news on wanting to do anything like that to any of those weapons?
I really do like buffing the set rather than the individual piece, since it does indeed include the individual piece when we're doing it like that.
Okay.
But yeah, we could buff the coif independently.
Okay. While we're on the topic, this is another question I'll get to in a bit, but why not now? People have been asking if the accumulator can work with the bolt racks for Carol's. Maybe provided you only have the full set on or anything like that. Thoughts on that?
I looked up how the bolt racks work, and I don't see a problem editing the code for this.
Okay. I'll have to see how the chat reacts to this because I'm quite curious. If they like their bolt racks or if they want to see them disappear.
I
bit
do
of
like that
mixing.
people keep getting sent back to Barrows to get more of the things, keeps the place populated.
They're on the Bounty Hunter shop, aren't they?
Bolt racks, I don't think so.
Are they not?
No, they are actually, yeah.
I know that there's a lot in the game.
I'm seeing a lot of yes, no, hell no, OP, and yes.
So
The
it
Carol's
says-
bow, the Carol's bow isn't really used that much when you compare it to something like the blowpipe now.
Yeah.
All right, something to think on. Cool.
Somebody said they're already too cheap, which may be a reason why people are saying no.
They're pretty cheap because there's a shop in that port that I'm not going to attempt to say.
That's massive.
Yeah, that sells them for somewhere around 50 GP, like the starting stock. It's
Leaked method.
Start of Old School, they bank. It's great.
But it's not a secret, they know it.
Yeah.
They do.
All right. Another good controversial one. This will be fun. This one's from the Gimo, and he asks, what's your opinion on having potion flasks in Old School?
Well, I don't really want to have to program all that lot, and I don't remember it being very popular last time the players were talking about it.
Yeah.
But sure, if the community would like it, we would do it. If.
Yeah.
If.
Yeah. I mean, our opinion on things is pretty much irrelevant, really. It's down to these guys.
Oh god.
And they've spoken.
Yeah.
Well, that saves us having to do all that then.
Yes.
Okay. Back on the halberds. This one's from Ed Hicks, and he asks, can the crystal halberd be changed to work on the corporal beast like the other halberds do?
I asked Mod Reach about this, he says yes.
Okay.
He didn't say he'd necessarily do it, and I didn't say I would either, but we could.
It's also worth noting that I was talking to Mod John C earlier, and he said that he'd like to poll adding the Dragon Halberd special attack to it as well.
Ooh.
Oh, I like that.
Okay. Maybe we can give it a cool new animation instead of a red one, as it is a crystal weapon.
Yeah, you could just recolor it. I don't want to mess around with it too much though, just because if it's an attack that's seen on another weapon, transferring it over to another weapon and saying, oh, we've used this similar attack, oh, it looks completely different, but it's like got massive fireworks all over the place.
Change the colour of the red bits to grey.
I don't know.
isn't it?
Yeah.
I'd say they have their faith in you after the armored crossbow animation special attack.
Yeah,
They're
maybe.
pretty successful.
But I think there's a certain consistency that you have to keep there. Like, you can't just keep dropping in these things that look really colourful and amazing
That's true.
all the time. And we've got new content coming up, so if I want to do things like that, then that's the place for it. I think on sort of like the sort of like main area, I suppose you'd call it, it's just nice to have a sense of consistency across the board. That's what we're trying to do moving forward, I think.
All right. Another one from the Gimo, and he asks, can we have the ability to store more cannonballs in our cannons? Quick answer.
The code would be very easy to change. Whether we want people to be able to load up the cannon, then walk away and let it carry on for a significant period, that's another question entirely. That's why it was set so low in the first place. But it's very easy to change. In fact, I think the developer who wrote it left support for it to go all the way up to 2 billion.
Ooh. Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
So
That'd be a new way to
extreme.
store wells.
We have talked about upgraded cannons being more like catapults and launching them with, what was it, javelins.
Ooh,
That
interesting.
might be a more ideal situation for holding more ammo.
How would it be different to a cannon?
It launches javelins instead of balls.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
That's pretty much it, I think. Maybe at a slower rate, more powerful, I don't know. Not my idea. All right, next question. This one's from Epic Zero, and he asks, can the Clan Wars minigame teleport be made available to free-to-play players?
Yes.
Mod Ash has spoken. Okay. Next question. From Toasty94. Will we ever see offhand weapons?
Probably not. I don't think they'll be overly popular. We can do it, but
That's a fairly radical departure
Yeah.
from the old school game.
yeah, I think that's the main reason why we probably wouldn't see it. I mean, the closest I think you're going to get is going to be a defender. But could do.
We're seeing yeses in the chat.
I
don't
think
know
they're
why.
responding to Ash. There we go.
Yes, there they are.
There's the nose.
They were
I was
responding to
going to
the,
say, let's hope we get that completely wrong.
the Clan Wars minigame teleport being made available for free-to-play players is a yes. Offhand weapons, not so yes.
Aren't you dumb? Star, something bad. I think that pretty much sums up the entire chat right now.
Not very happy
I
about
hope
that.
whoever asked that question doesn't feel bad about having asked it now.
He did. He said, I know this is going to get a lot of downvotes, but I have to ask it. So
Well,
So
Sorry,
somebody
that
on
was
Reddit,
fun.
so you can track them down now.
That's okay. All right, this one's from Zero. Could we imbue Ultimate Ironman Armor with armor like Rune, so you can show off your Ultimate Ironman Armor, or even just Ironman Armor rather, while it's still having decent stats?
Yeah, there's a lot of, I can understand why.
Yeah.
I mean, there's two sort of schools of thought. Is obviously that one there, which is, you know, you want to show off that you're an Iron Man because it is great armor. But then there's the other school of thought, which is very much what you said earlier, which is you see an item, you know exactly what it is, and you don't want to be confused over what it is. If you're seeing somebody dressed up as in Iron Man armor, you go to fight them in the wilderness, and it turns out that armor is Rune rather than steel or whatever it is, an iron, isn't it?
Yeah,
Similar to iron armor. Then you're going to be a bit miffed about that. So I think I understand people want to show it off. Maybe if we could differentiate between the armour so they could see differences.
I got the impression that what the player might have been asking for was that they get something that looks like the Iron Man armour but painted rune colour
I
to
think that
show
might be
it's...
the way to do it, yeah.
Yeah, so you use a rune plate on the Iron Man plate thing and it becomes a rune Iron Man plate body.
Yes.
We've got to work on the nouns for that.
I like that idea, actually. Okay, cool. So it is a possibility.
Oh yeah.
One to definitely look into then. All right.
Like, you don't actually use a huge number of different colours on the Iron Man kit, do you?
I think there's about 20 colours.
20 shades of grey.
Yeah, 20 shades of grey. Yes, exactly.
Well, it could be a lot harder.
Yeah.
I mean, like if there were more than 20.
Leave it.
All right.
Could be colour that.
Cool. Next question. This one's from Rangefinder General, and he asks, "Can we get a filter for the quests we have the requirements for, and the ones we don't?"
Almost certainly. The fiddly bit really is just giving you the option to choose between them. See, they used a drop-down menu in the other RuneScape. We can't currently do drop-down menus properly because we don't have the thing that stops your clicking go right through the drop-down menu to the thing below it. That's why the minigame grouping teleport thing cheats by making the whole menu vanish when you open the drop down. So we could do it apart from the bit with the interface. But once we got past that, I think we do get support for preventing click-through when we do in the resizable mode engine. We can do a lot more of this stuff then.
Okay, so possibly in the future. Cool, a lot of support for that one as well. All right, next question. This one's from LiveE2, and he asks, can the Berserker necklace effect apply to the obby rings and obby staff to make them more useful? At the moment, they just work for the melee weapons.
Would it apply to the spells being cast on the obby stuff? Or
The staff, I guess so, yeah. They would, well, that would be interesting. I guess they'd have to make the spells more accurate, because we obviously don't offer damage buffs. But the rings you never see used, and they're one of the coolest weapons in the game.
I do love the rings.
Yeah.
I would like to see them used. Would this do it, do you think?
Depends on how much of a buff we gave. See what the chat thinks about that one. Nope. Wow. Okay.
Well, that's a relief.
They don't like obby stuff. All right. That's that. Next question. This one's from B Zimmy, and he asks, will you be adding any additional rewards to the achievement diaries in the near future? And Mod John C actually answered this for us, and he said probably be pulling a few minor additions in the near future, but nothing dramatic.
I think he said he'd like to do an option for making the Varrock teleport go to the GE.
Yeah.
That's a big one. And here come the yeses again.
Yeah.
Next question. This one's from Hayden, and he asks, can we have the ability to flush/wipe our private messages if we want them off our screen? Some conversations can last hours, just sitting there. I can see
Yeah,
this
ever
is,
since we changed the chat buffer so that different types of chat don't push each other out of memory, then all the public chat spam doesn't make your private messages vanish, so they just stay there. We could have a kind of purge option, if that would be worth doing it. Or we could make them time out after 10 minutes automatically. I'd rather go with the purge option myself. Easy to implement for a start.
And they
There's a
couldn't
lot of yeses in the
accidentally
chat.
do it either.
I don't know if you even have an unpurge option, the way I've been thinking of writing it.
Oh, get rid of that chat just a second. I forgot what he said. Let me see the chat again. Yes. That sounds nice.
Be nice for hiding it during streams as well.
Yes.
I'd like to do it just for the split private chat place, not necessarily for the chat history itself.
Correct.
If it's in the chat box, so it could, well, because there's less of a pressure to make the things vanish if it's there. Whereas if it's in the split private chat area, it stays on your screen in the way.
Okay. Seeing a lot of yes pleases. So
Yeah, they like that.
they like your answer. All right. Next question. This one's from Bowlcut, and he asks, can you pull giving a slight buff to experience gained in the resource area to encourage more traffic? I'd go ahead and say this might have come from PKer.
And Bolcott should answer that, really. Roland?
We haven't. He chopped it off.
It's going back again, though.
It's getting there.
We'll have to do another video.
More of a source.
Trying to get his haircut again.
That's after however many retweets, of course.
Yes, absolutely. Sorry,
No, it's
Ryan.
not. Someone actually retweeted that the other day. It's from like November. I think it'd be nice to get more traffic there.
Yeah.
Although I'm not sure what the deterrent is really, whether it's the PKs or.
As far as, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting idea, but as far as bonus XP goes, he was asking for like a buff or bonus XP, like a 2.5 XP increase or whatever.
I think I think
Percentage.
bonus XP would probably never pass a poll, even
Yeah.
if it was in the wilderness, despite how much I'd love to see that. But I think anything that we can, if people aren't going there as it is, then it's not really doing what it was intended to. So giving it a slight buff might be nice. It's got to be within reason is the thing. If there's not going to be enough PKs to take out all the skillers,
Right.
then people are going to get some ridiculous amounts of resources and experience, and if it's not going to really bring people to the wilderness, then it's kind of pointless to begin with.
There are a ton of different options to go by. You could say an option to maybe increase the entry fee for a higher something. But that's a very controversial topic.
I've seen a fair few people in there, to be fair. It's
Yeah.
not the rarest thing that people are
I
in
think it
there.
has its peak times.
I think what we need to do is we need to get these data hooks put in place so we can actually see how many people going in there and what they're actually doing. I know I use the word data, but it's what it is. Because if we can look at, so one of the things we have in the game at the moment is we have all this information about what the game does and who does what in game. It's all kept and stored in this big computer somewhere up in the sky, and probably called Skynet. And we've got no way of looking at this information and finding out what's going on and what people are doing. And we need to get Ian to get our game to point towards our data warehouse so that our data analysts can look at the information and tell us what's going on, which will be his job after Bonds and Chrome. Once we've got that, then we can just ask them how many players have gone into the resource area in the last week and what did they do when they got in there, and they'll send us a report saying 400,000 players went in and they all went and mined rune rocks. And so we know exactly what it's used for, we'll know how many people are using it, we can see a distribution of when they go in and when they don't go in. Do they deliberately not go in at peak times because they think there are more PKs around, so they deliberately do it when the servers are quieter? And we can see all that stuff, and then that will help us make some decisions on what the best thing to do with it is. So if we see that they aren't going in at peak times, we know that PKs are putting them off doing it, which is pretty much how it's supposed to work, really. So we need to do that.
A lot more that goes into these what appear to be simple questions.
Yeah.
Sometimes a bit more of an in-depth answer.
I think we're in a very pensive mood today, aren't we?
All right. Next question. This one's from Hazani, and he asks, "Can you merge Chompy Hunting with Hunter? I think they like Chompy Hunting now, and they want it to become a skill. Thoughts on that?"
Get some hunting XP for it.
Like give hunting XP when they do it.
Yeah.
Since there's no hunter XP required, no hunter level required to start the quest, it would mean it would be something you could do from like level 1 hunter, which means the XP it would have to give would be the sort of XP you should be able to earn at level 1 hunter, which is pretty poor. And it would stay that way all the way up because we couldn't start saying you get more XP per Chompy based on how much XP you've already got, without it being a really strange feature.
And there would be people who have already killed 100,000 of them being like, "Where's my experience?"
Yeah.
Yes.
I think they actually did have XP that went up with your level in firemaking back in RS Classic. As your level went up, you got an extra like XP per log burned or something very odd like that. But it's not something RuneScape's done since, and it's not something I really want RuneScape to do since.
No, it doesn't. I mean, the only way I can see to make it make sense is using the Chompy hat with the different feathers in to give boosts to XP, but that just feels dirty as well. So, you know, it's
dirty.
Dirty, yeah. It doesn't seem like a nice way of doing things.
Okay.
Deliberately use that word.
As a rule, when a quest feature is going to become something major for a skill, it really helps for it to have been designed that way in the first place.
Indeed, yeah.
And Chompy Hunting came out 2004.
Well, there might be room in Zaya for more hunter content if that's what you're looking for.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
As far as Chompy goes, not too likely. All right, next question. This one's from Dinguil, and he asks, with commands like : toggle off, toggle roof, I think, used to toggle the rooftops, obviously. Are there any other possible commands that we could have in old school, such as : toggle hop to world 330?
Great toggle that one.
Bank to bank.
Yeah, try : bank now. See what it does for you. Go on.
But realistically, are there any other possibility?
Okay, at the moment when you type things into the chat like that, the client knows about it, but the server doesn't necessarily. The chat system finds out, but the chat system doesn't actually execute code on you, it just passes messages around. So that really limits what we can make the : cheats do to just things the client's controlling, like showing roofs or not showing roofs. And it can't make you switch to another world necessarily. Not without some more engine work anyway. I do like the idea of letting you hop to another world more easily. In fact, a while back we talked about just adding join options to all the friends on your friends list to on other worlds, or having it on the trading post we were talking about at the time. Yeah. We can have an in-game world hopper quite happily. One where either you type the world number or one that lists the worlds and tries to send you to them when you click the button. Might even get around the delay, if we're lucky, the limit of how fast you can use a quick hopper to log into another world at the moment.
Okay.
Not sure though, we haven't tried it. But yeah, we'd like to give people a better way of world hopping. I'm not sure it's going to be using a : cheat necessarily, right? But we can try and address that in a different way.
All right.
Interesting to see how much the community want, or watching now, want a world hopper. So I'm sure James could put a straw polled it for us. Oh, James did say he could cut your hair if you wanted him to.
No, we couldn't. Get out.
You're picky about who cuts your hair?
Wow. Wow.
He's growing up, isn't he? You know, he's going to worry about these things more as he gets into puberty and stuff.
We went the whole stream without banter.
I'm shocked. Wow.
I feel like I should leave. Like a dramatic exit.
We're recruiting. If you'd like to join our team and become part of this happy family, please send your CV.
Oh dear, yeah. Just so you know, HR department is just over there. If you want to lodge a complaint, they're probably watching anyway.
Noted.
All right. Cool. Let's go to more questions. So this one's from MLG No Scope AGS Spec, and he
That's
asks,
a name.
"Yep. Can Ironmen get ranged/mage armor as a choice instead of only being able the melee armor when they get off Tutorial Island?"
Could
Like
do.
making some Iron Dragon kit.
I wouldn't have an
Dragonhide?
issue with that at all. Yeah, it seems to make sense, and it'd look nice. It'd all be the same colour scheme though. So yeah, it'd just be like a slightly. You'd have a robe instead of like trousers, for example, or you'd have a less armoured top for ranged or something like that. But yeah, I can do that easily.
Maybe feathers on top rather than the kind of boot scraper thing.
With the it's a reaping scythe blade that's on the top. Yeah, possibly. I could change the helm. I can't just because we've got the chat box icon. I kind of thought like the reaping scythe was kind of
Right.
synonymous with it.
That's a good point.
It is a bit.
So I probably wouldn't be inclined to change that, but I could certainly like reduce the size of it. Maybe
Yeah, a
incorporate
feather
it.
headdress type thing.
Yeah, you could just do something like that, for example. Like you know, like those Robin Hood hats, the way they sort of come forwards, or that you could just do a much more slimline version, so it still looks like the blade or something like that. But yeah, I will do that if people want it. That
Awesome.
sounds good.
I'd say it's a valid request. You know, you get off Tutorial Island, you're not really forced to be a melee PK, but you are given melee armor and not range or mage. So, fair question. We have the results back from that straw poll asking if you'd like an official world hopper, and that's looking at what 84%.
It's not higher than I thought it would be.
That's
Really?
nearly as popular as Mod Ash Pet.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Well, Ashpet first, then World Hopper.
Yeah, we have to
Priorities of
prioritize
the old
these
school
things.
community.
Okay. Next question. This one's from Chocobo Drumstick, and he asks, "What are your thoughts on adding an anvil near the Armadillo area of the God Wars up in the wilderness to smith Addy Bard drops, possibly as a diary reward?"
Hang on, don't the ones in the wilderness drop them in banknote form?
They do. Okay, not the ones in the wilderness. Let's go to the normal God Wars.
Yeah. I
Adding an
see what
anvil
we're
to
doing.
the Armadillo area.
And the reason that we didn't do it was to stop the big influx of bots which happened first time round. So if we give them an extra use, we're still not going to see the bot site anyway because they're not going to sell them, are they? Because the only thing we're likely to get is smithing bots, which
Either
I
they,
don't think we'll see.
well, either they do it to make alcohols and just stay there generating money, which I don't have a big problem with, or they do it and make something stackable and sell it later.
Yeah. Arrowheads.
You could just put the anvil near maybe the middle of God Wars, so it's still a bit far away, but it's obviously not nearly as far away as the nearest other anvil.
What you get in God Wars, any God Wars dungeon though, is lots of aggressive monsters,
Yeah.
and you can't reasonably do any smithing with those around. So wherever we put an anvil, we'd effectively have to also put a safe place.
Unless they have the armor on the associates with that
Mm.
God group.
That's an interesting dynamic to it, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's an interesting idea. Cool. Think about that one. All right, next question. This one's from Nathan's. And he asks, "Can we have a toggle which allows us to fill our inventories up in columns as opposed to rows?" OCD-scape.
Yeah.
Unlikely. Every piece of code that edits the inventory would have to be changed.
Every piece of code. So there's your answer. It's a yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Providing you don't want
provided.
anything else until December.
Yeah. So while Dandle's there, I'll do that. And your next update will be in 2017.
All right. This one's from Paul, and he asks, "Why are there packs of vials, but not packs of commonly used things such as empty jugs for wines or even buckets and pots?"
At the time, we were dealing with lots of vial buying bots. if we need more packs of other things, we will very happily do that.
Okay.
Mind you, there's GE these days. There's a case for taking away some of the packs we've already got, like elemental runes.
Okay. It's a possibility. All right. Next question. This one's from Sez, and he asks, any updates on the possibility of giving the Ring of Stone that ability to conceal your white dot on the minimap?
I do
It's a
like
cool
that
idea
idea.
that came
Yeah.
up a while
I do like
back.
that idea. No more updates than.
I looked into what we can currently do for that in the engine as it is. We could take away the white dot on the minimap. It would also take away the ops when people try and click on you. And we thought that might be a little bit too extreme, so we didn't do it.
Yes. That makes you invincible.
Yeah, and be able to be attacked. Yeah, it probably wouldn't work.
Well, they'd come back if you started fighting, but effectively you would just look like some drops and no one would be able to tell you weren't until you suddenly killed them. So we thought we shouldn't do that.
The reason why I like this idea so much is because the Ring of Stone has always been useless. Everyone knows that. It is awesome. But you wouldn't be able to fight anybody while you're obviously in this rock formation, hidden in the wilderness next to a dragon, I imagine. Also, they're still worth quite a bit. So, and you know, you're not going to see a level 3 with this. You're going to see experienced PKers willing to risk 3 mil plus.
Well, if Ian updates the engine to let us take away the minimap dot without also taking away all your ops, then yeah, we can go right ahead with it. As it is, I think it would be a bit powerful if we did what we currently can do.
Definitely. Cool. All right. Next question. Let's go to this one from Anthony Ward, and he asks, can you make it so you can still drink prayer pots while you're being speared?
The thing that the spear does stops you doing anything. If they'd like us to stop you doing anything except drinking prayer potions, that's a bit of a challenge. So I'm not sure we could do that.
It would have to allow you to, I assume, eat as well.
Well, yeah, we wouldn't be able to override everything you could possibly try to do except drink a prayer potion.
I suppose the issue they're having is they're getting speared until they run out of prayer
Yeah.
and being killed and losing their items.
Yeah.
Yeah. It does require a massive team, but
Yeah.
essentially, if you have something like an HES, you've lost it.
We polled a different change to that a while back and it failed. I don't know why it failed, to be honest. I
It's
kind
people who like doing it, I guess.
Yeah.
You'd think, but I can't imagine that enough people like doing that to really make up over 25% of the community. I think perhaps it may have been misinterpreted.
Oh, I'd be very, very happy if we could write a clearer version and get that one through a poll.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. All right.
Don't know how you guys would feel about it.
It's kind of mixed from the looks of things. All right. Next question. This one's from Sir Patriocolis. I'm sorry. Okay.
What?
A couple of years back, you discussed the possibility of introducing white dragons and possibly white-colored dragon armor. What are your thoughts on this now?
Still do it. I guess it seems like a good thing for the new continent, really, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Seems to
maybe.
fit a bit nicely there.
Do we have the whole? Yeah, so we've got like chromatic dragons, haven't we? We got any metal dragons?
We've just got the iron and steel, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. If we were
So-
extending the range of metal dragons, I'd kind of want to go down the adamant route rather than.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem to fit into lore to have like a white dragon, to be
Yeah.
honest.
No, but
Even in fantasy lore in general.
Dan actually did write some lore around his concept for a white dragon back in 2013-ish.
we've got white armour, haven't we?
Okay.
We do.
So white armour, white dragon.
Possibly. I suppose, yeah, we'll just discuss it in a meeting. Let's have a meeting. We'll have a meeting about white dragons. Schedule it.
I think his lore was something along the lines of a dragonkin has made this in the way the dragonkin made lots of the dragons,
Yeah.
but the dragonkin has kind of lost control of this one and is having second thoughts.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I think also, like, if I was to do a white dragon, you can't really make it look that interesting because it's just really pale and white. There's, you'd just be like lots of different shades, 50 shades of grey, wouldn't it? It would be
Picturing the
50
black
shades of
dragons
grey.
just
Like I've lost
reverted.
properly, but okay.
Yeah. But yeah, it wouldn't look very interesting. I'd probably like steer away from it, to be
It
honest.
could just be albino-wise dragon.
It would be we could do an
Red
ice
eyes.
dragon, except it's practically a wyvern.
Interesting bit of text just came in from James, who's refreshing our knowledge. Simon, sorry. And he says, Third Age range armor actually has an examine text that says ancient range protection crafted from white dragon hide. I forgot about that.
Who's a clever one, isn't he?
It's mod Simon for you.
He spends too much time playing RuneScape, I reckon.
So maybe white dragons drop Third Age range armor, right?
Right.
Great idea.
Yeah. Someone just posted actually
Shut
just in the
mine
chat now. It said you get an albino dragon or an albino variant of a dragon once every 1,000 kills of a dragon, which is that's something that we've sort of spoken about within the team before about creating unique bigger monsters, haven't we? Which appear every now and then, which would be quite an interesting idea.
Cool. All right. Next question. This one's from Scott, and he asks, can firelights become less useless? Perhaps they could drop matching gems once the fire runs out. You get a green firelighter, you get a bunch of emeralds.
That's interesting because ashes are always available for anyone to pick up. So if we did that with gems, then that would be a nice gift to the community.
That would be a fun little drop party.
Yeah.
Question is how many? He actually initiated just saying one. I was thinking one, that's still not even enough.
I would do less than one.
Half
So
of sapphire.
You don't. I mean, you get a chance of getting one for each time you burn one.
The one sapphire, that's like 200 GP.
Yeah,
For
I know.
firelighter.
But you don't want to sort of suddenly flood loads of sapphires and rubies and emeralds
I suppose so.
into game using the hundreds of these things people got lying around.
Maybe if you could cook a special kind of fish on the blue fire to get a blue fish. Okay, maybe not.
All right. Next question. This one's from Baskar, and he asks, can we get a way to search for friends in our friends lists?
I
So
would
people
like
have a
to
lot of
add
friends?
kind of alphabetical search, or filter names by matching strings for friends, ignore, music, quests,
Yep.
that kind of thing. Fiddly job. Never had a chance to put it on a poll because it would have taken a while to deliver if it passed. But yeah, it's something we can certainly do.
Okay.
I mean, I did it for the bank. It's easier for anything apart from the bank.
All right. There's that.
I was going to say, someone just asked about Dragon Boss in the chat just there. We are planning one for the new continent, aren't we? Dan mentioned it. Yeah. So that's why I was thinking with that dragon, maybe something more appropriate to the area that would be in as opposed to the white one. But
Yeah, I mean, for that dragon in particular, I would imagine they'll probably use some sort of lava-esque type dragon
Yeah,
as it's planning to
definitely.
go into a massive volcano.
yeah.
So magma dragon or something.
I'd say a lava dragon was really innovative if we hadn't got them.
Yes, yeah. No. Yeah.
Okay. This question's from Dave, and he asks, will achievement diary requirements ever be changed? He, for example, has a 1 def peer and can't do certain tasks that have defense requirements. Will we ever be changing the requirements?
I don't think we'll be going back to sort of allowing pures to access that if they haven't got the defense requirement. There's a reason there's a defense requirement for it. And I can't see that ever changing, really.
Right.
Yeah. But there's a long discussion about pures, isn't there? Which is, some of the community is saying they're deliberately limiting their account, therefore they shouldn't get access to it. And every time we've tried to poll anything pure-wise, everyone's said no.
Yeah.
So
I think we put it to a poll now saying, shall we remove the requirement so that pures can access all these rewards and features? I don't think it would pass.
Yeah. I
Most
see the
definitely.
chat is being particularly supportive of pures at the moment. I personally, I think pures are great, and I mean, I've been wanting to put some pure armor into game, which is a maximum defense requirement rather than a minimum defense requirement. But it's just never going to pass a poll, so I don't think we're going to see that anytime soon.
Okay.
What's the other question?
The next one. This one's from Peckish Toucan, and he asks, can we have a no weapon switching option in the duel arena?
Probably, although it would be really awkward if you'd got a weapon that involved ammo and you ran out of ammo.
Do you know why he's asking that? Is it for the Hasta?
That's the only thing I could think of.
Yeah.
So, we have had quite a few requests over time the last month or so. I'm asking about changing some duel arena rules and whatnot. When do you think we might be looking at, or if we might be looking at the duel arena?
Well, I could spend a couple of weeks working on the dual arena interfaces, or I could move on to resizable. That kind of decision.
Yeah.
It might be something to think about over the summer, perhaps.
Yeah,
Seems like quite a nice thing
I'd like to do it, but there's a lot of things I'd like to do.
Right.
But I think, especially for dual arena, I think there's 101 things we could do to make it easier and nicer for them to use it.
Yeah,
And,
Dan and I worked on the dual arena for RS3 shortly before the launch of Old School. It was the last thing we did before coming over to Old School. And what we did with the interfaces that I'm quite pleased with, like remembering your last setup and letting you save it and letting you call back your saved one or your previous one with a click of a button. Also making the confirm button not be there for a few seconds after anybody changes it, so that you, if your opponent changes the options, you don't accidentally click through without seeing that it's changed. I was quite pleased with that. Did it for our clan wars as well, based on that.
I do want to tie in some a bit more visibility for what's going on for the Twitch viewers as well. So we obviously get a lot of people dueling on Twitch. So I'm wondering if there's some way of sort of giving them some interfaces so people could more see what's going on.
So you click on somebody who's in a duel and you get a little panel saying what their options are, perhaps?
Yeah, maybe something like that. Yeah, it'd be quite interesting to see.
I bet I could find a way of making that happen.
Yeah.
I just want the Orb of Oculus really badly.
Yeah.
To solve all of the issues.
Yeah.
But aside from that, I think we're about out of questions for the day. Actually, more or less out of time. We do have one quick thing to mention, however. There's a video that should have gone live on the YouTube channel right about now. On the Old School YouTube channel. That's at youtube.com/oldschoolrscommunity. Featuring some content from our day out a couple days ago. We did some fun things. Indoor skydiving, bowling, skiing, ate food, really good food.
Ate food, lots of
was
food.
Lots of food.
We had a really good time.
Yeah.
And you can watch the highlights back on the YouTube channel, which we can hopefully get that video linked in the chat soon. But yep, should be in there now.
There are fails included, it's worth noting. Some pretty
And there are some fails, especially from the skydiving, especially
I
on
think they'll
Rowan's part.
notice that they failed.
Yes, there's always the fails in there.
Yeah, it's a really good video. You guys should definitely give it a look. That's right, the bull went bowling.
Yes. He did.
All right, but aside from that, anything else you guys want to add?
No, I'm good.
Bonds and Easter coming early next week.
Yeah.
We're aiming for Monday. If we can, it'll be Monday. If we can't, try for the next day.
Yeah.
All right.
Skydiving pet. That's what it says.
Skydiving skill.
That was friendly. Was Twilight. His suggestion was a skydiving pet. Take it out on him.
We had chickens coming out of the sky at one point in other RuneScape just before the launch of Citadels as a kind of teaser for Avlani and the islands floating in the sky. Just had her throwing chickens through a portal, and occasionally a burning chicken would come out of
That's right.
the sky and wander around.
Yeah. All right. So there's the link in the chat if you guys want to watch that video. But aside from that, we're
I
about
was
done
going to
here.
say actually, I'm working on some teleports as well for achievement diaries, just to make those teleports that you've got, if you've got them yet, a bit more interesting. You can check them out on my Twitter feed if you want to. That's at jagex_ghost.
Shameless plug.
It is a shameless plug. I don't care.
Follow me.
They do look really good. The teleport animations.
Absolutely.
Looking forward to those. Right. There we go. Give the stream a follow if you enjoyed, and we'll catch you next Thursday.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
See ya.